coincidence that these towers are not just relay towers for cellular frequencies, but because you can see that they don't have to have two cellular towers only about 500 feet apart, or even in cases, some cases 150 feet apart. Usually they are laid, let's say, in a few miles apart. Okay, but in California, even in schoolyards of public schools, they are building these towers, cellular towers. And of course, the school systems and you name it, they are glad to have the telephone company install these towers because they get a rental fee of like an income of $3,000 per month. So you see some of these towers being built on a schoolyard or sometimes next to a church. I have a picture of a California, a church where next to the church there is this tower, strange tower, but all under the guise of cellular relay station or towers. But again, in future, they could possibly attach some devices on these cellular towers for possibly crowd control or behavioral alteration, emission devices. We have lots of information coming to back this up. You see that the telecommunication industry is highly linked with the Department of Defense, the military. It's a basic part of the military now, the telecommunication link. Again, the GWEN system, ground wave emergency network, being placed all across the country. Strangely enough, Al Gore, in November 1982, he was part of the committee and other subcommittees of the United States House of Representatives. He was part of this project known as the Workbook for Participatory Democracy, a Congressional Clearinghouse on the Future, and a Congressional Institute for the Future Agenda. And Mr. Al Gore is definitely one of the proponents of the importance of microwave weapon systems. In fact, he says that offensive microwave weapons offer the potential of using such technologies, and he's talking about non-lethal technologies, as force field or beam weapons which have great destructive power. By the way, Al Gore is a proponent of this technology, the future weapon system based on the so-called non-lethal weapon system, which is just a euphemism for dangerous, mind-damaging weapon systems. And this is a fact. The government has now a tremendous arsenal of this new type of weaponry that can damage our mind. And this is ongoing. And for a long time, China Lake Naval Weapons Station in California desert has been the place of many of this testing of these weapon systems. Electromagnetic beam systems, frequency emission devices, mechanism to disengage electromagnetics of a tank from a distance, and other new types of weapons programs. By the way, as I mentioned, everything is symbolic. The secret government cleverly uses symbolism as a parallel movement to sensitize us for what's coming. I believe that in 1943, when the United States Navy began a series of experiments on radar, they have begun a long series of manipulative process leading up to right now. Strangely enough, the alleged Philadelphia experiment of 1943 was related to this radar technology, and again 1943. And isn't it strange that China Lake Naval Weapons Testing Grounds, the nation's largest, came into existence in 1943. Right in the middle of California desert, right next to the, right in the Death Valley, and it has 1,126,000 acres of naval research laboratory, naval weapons system, right in the middle of desert. This is not a coincidence. Everything has a symbolic meaning. Wall Street Journal came out with the article a couple of years ago that there are new class of weapon system that could incapacitate foe, yet limit casualties. And of course, these are the non-lethal weapons system, electromagnetic pulses, and other high-tech tricks. Again, we're talking about laser weapons and also infrasound, very low frequency sound generators that could possibly alter the movements or the actions of maybe potential enemies, or possibly civilians in a civilian setting in cities in case of national emergencies, maybe riots. These technologies are here and now. This is not science fiction, and everybody, of course, should be aware that the technology that we are presented with is always, as is the case, 10 to 15 to 25 years old. When the stealth program was revealed in 1987 in Palmdale, when the B-1 bomber was revealed, the stealth bomber, it was already 10 to 12 years old. And journalists were gathered at the hangar of Palmdale facility in 1987, which was already at that time 12 years old. So imagine the state of art of technology that is being kept hidden from the public. Again, according to this Wall Street Journal on the non-lethal weapons, some of the most amazing things could be, for example, hologramic image projection devices. For example, they were talking about this causing the confusion, and also alongside the issuance of comative chemicals, they were even talking about projecting image and confusing them with hologramic projection in the clouds above them. Perhaps images of Muslim martyrs projected in the atmosphere. Or, as a matter of fact, any type of imagery in the atmosphere. Again, we have been hearing of strange apparitions worldwide nowadays. For example, the apparitions in maybe Medjugorje, in the Philippines. There are many different types of apparitions. Could it be that our technology could be duplicating some of this, the hologramic imagery project? Again, we gotta be very careful. We must not be deceived. The Bible says there will come a time when a great delusion will come. We gotta be very careful not to be deceived by human technology duplicating some what looks like supernatural phenomena. But again, that doesn't mean that there are no supernatural phenomena in this world. The Bible says in these last days deception will come, and the Bible also expressly says that in this world there are spiritual entities. One-third of all the angelic beings created in the universe by God fell long time ago, and I believe that they are demonic entities, possibly in these last days deceiving people and materializing themselves and presenting themselves to be maybe alien entities, and possibly even deceiving some select group of government scientists in this government in operations maybe at Area 51. But again, we're talking about two items simultaneously going on at the same time. There is the unknown spiritual phenomena going on, but yet there is also the technology that can now mimic some of the alleged supernatural type of situations. So we're talking about two separate things, but yet there is a connecting link somewhere. Now let's go to the next slide. There was a secret meeting held in Los Alamos National Laboratory 2 years ago. This is part of the agenda of this classified conference sponsored by Los Alamos National Laboratory. This was in November of 1993, and it was on the use of non-lethal defense. This was part of the program that came out of the conference, a secret meeting which was attended by military officials and scientists and professional level educators and a lot of people from all elite type of people. Now, one of the guests, of course, was none other than the Honorable Janet Reno. Again, this is very strange because the entire conference was based on the use of non-lethal weapons technology, non-lethal defense technology. Of course, Dr. John Alexander has been working on that in Los Alamos for many, many years. Peacekeeping operations, again, a National Institute of Justice, less than a lethal program. Again, non-lethal program is a euphemism. It's a dangerous program that can twist the minds of people. For example, Future Technology Conference report, simulation and modeling, key to non-lethal weapons. As I mentioned, the government can simulate a lot of things. It's my conviction that one of these days, and possibly very soon, they could simulate a fake extraterrestrial type of a scenario to cause some panic and cause the government to declare maybe even a partial emergency and martial law situation. This is not just a figment of imagination. Technology is here and now. Now let's go on to the agenda of that secret meeting. Technology presentation, acoustic technology. This means that there are acoustic devices like cylindrical objects that can emit a strange infrasound in the distance and possibly alter the behavior of that person half a mile away by pointing this acoustic beam device. Again, high-power microwave technology. As I mentioned, microwave weapon system is the weapon of the future, says Al Gore. Again, is this a coincidence? Battlefield optical munitions. Optical. Imagery. The hologramic image projected in the atmosphere to deceive people, deceive enemy soldiers. So, again, some of this could be legitimate for national defense, but what if the technology is applied in civilian atmosphere? I mean, we have the technology to emit an image of a tank in a distant hill where there are no tanks above the hills, maybe an image of an automobile on a highway, lonely highway, maybe there might not be any cars, but yet by tri-dimensional method they could emit the hologramic image of whatever they wished. For example, image of a prophet in the sky, an image of maybe Buddha or Maitreya. We have the technology. But I believe that a lot of these technologies could be used to create an alternative scenario, maybe for what I believe to be the coming of the Lord. I believe with all my heart that the Lord is coming soon, and if that happens, I believe that the secular world will have to create an alternative scenario to explain away the real event that is promised in the Bible, known as the rapture or the translation of the believers, which is the blessed hope, which I believe is coming in this generation. Now, let's continue on. One item, see, is a one container sticky forms. I mean, this is basically a lower tech compared to what they were talking about. Application of extremely low frequency, electromagnetic fields, non-lethal weapons, and so on, attended by a select group of individuals, including Janet Reno. A secret meeting held in Los Alamos National Laboratory. Jane's Defense Review, Jane's Defense Weekly, the world's most informed defense magazine. Isn't it strange that it's published in Great Britain and not the United States? The United States does not have a comparable defense magazine like the Jane's Defense Weekly, which is published in Great Britain. Jane's Defense Weekly, published in Great Britain, knows more about American military state-of-the-art technology than any of the American defense magazines. I don't think it's a coincidence. Again, researchers have proven that a lot of the elements that we believe to be some type of a conglomerate worldwide elite that is planning to globalize this world into a one-world system. A lot of these groups are based in places like London. And I don't think it's just a coincidence that Jane's Defense Weekly knows a lot of what's going on. For example, they came out with this article about Stingray electro-optical countermeasure system. Also the optics program, radio frequency and microwave lasers, supercaustics, again that's the infrasound and acoustics, polymers, smoke, and electromagnetic pulse generators, to name a few. Again, very, very low frequency sound as a riot or crowd control agent. Infrasound generators could be turned against humans, causing disorientation, nausea, and vomiting. Now, there are also devices besides this that can cause temporary loss of memory. For example, there are many, many different types of artificial drugs that the military has been working on also. Some of these drugs can make one person lose temporarily, for a few minutes or so, memory. For example, what if the scenario, which I believe will happen, I believe that the Lord is literally coming to catch His followers, believers, in the air. And if that happens, a mass confusion undoubtedly will take over the world. For example, maybe at that time, some of these devices could be utilized so that some type of a calmative effort could be made to calm down the population. Maybe temporary memory loss could be one of these technologies. Possibly infusion of certain chemicals in the water system. A lot of these things can really make a person dizzy or have a temporary loss of memory. Maybe that's how they could create an alternative scenario to make the people drugged so that not to get panicked with disappearance of a certain segment of the population, which I believe is coming. The Bible says we'll be taken literally up in the air to meet the Lord in the air. And that is coming. Again, technology is here to create an alternative scenario to all of this. Jane's Defense Review, or the International Defense Review, also came out with a statement that Los Alamos National Laboratory have been working on the high-power microwave projectiles and so on, and acoustic beams. In fact, when Noriega was captured in Panama, the military attempted to use some of the infrasound system to make him surrender. And this is clearly indicated in International Defense Review. In fact, they probably did use some of the acoustic beams to make him surrender. And the next item is very, very interesting. This is Jane's Defense Electronics came out with a stunning article last year saying that the Department of Defense and other intelligence agencies were looking at Russian mind control technology claims. Now, FBI considered testing on Koresh. Now, strangely enough, this article says federal law enforcement officials considered testing a Russian scientist's acoustic mind control device on cultist David Koresh a few weeks before the fiery conflagration that killed the Branch Davidians leader and more than 70 of the followers in Waco, Texas. Defense Electronics has learned. In a series of closed meetings beginning March 17 in suburban northern Virginia with Dr. Igor Smirnov of the Moscow Medical Academy, and he's one of the top authorities on acoustic beam weapons, or acoustic weapons. FBI officials were briefed on the Russians' decade-long research on a computerized acoustic device allegedly capable of implanting thoughts in a person's mind without that person being aware of the nature of the thought. You see, in other words, without the person being aware, they can possibly alter the thought process of that person by the acoustic method. This was in James Defense Electronics. Again, some of these are not in the liberal media. We are being brainwashed by the liberal media, especially nowadays. The media has been bombarding throughout the nation and demonizing anybody that talks about the New World Order as, you know, a category of right-wing extremist wackos. And this is the very trick of the liberal media, which is definitely controlled by those people who wish to create a controlled New World Order. Just as it's prophesied in the Bible. A New World Order is going to come. But can we fight against the setup of the New World Order? Personally, I don't think so. The technology is here and now, and we cannot pick up guns to fight against high technology. There's no way. You see, a more efficient time could be spent by witnessing to the people about what's coming. And the Bible says the importance of knowledge is stressed in the Bible. It says that my people perish with lack of knowledge, you see. Perishing with lack of knowledge. And this is more dangerous. I mean, we cannot fight literally by taking up machine guns against the New World Order. Besides, the biblical prophecy will not be realized. We cannot stop the biblical prophecy from being realized because that is God's plan. And again, we have to occupy ourselves every day until the coming and witness and keep working. And we cannot just hide in the mountains and wait for His coming, but we got to occupy ourselves. Temptations and trials will come. Tribulation will come, but we got to still fight spiritually and ask God to protect us spiritually. Now, Los Angeles Times business section had an article just last year about the eye in the sky. Eye in the sky. Notice the strange occultic symbol on the back of the dollar bill, the all-seeing eye. You see, this is another symbolism. Did you know that right now there are at least 985 satellites going around the Earth, this globe? 985 as of this moment. 350 of which we know nothing about, and they are called the spy satellites. And out of those spy satellites, 24 were designated several years ago to be part of the SDI system, the Global Positioning System. With these particular 24 satellites, they can track any transponders that connect with the satellite system. Even though the transponder may be small, they can pinpoint the exact location of the transponder, whether you are in a jungle in Africa or on the ocean or in the desert. As long as you have that particular transponder, they can spot exactly where you are. And in fact, the Los Angeles airport was the site of an experiment about 5 to 6 years ago, in which an airplane from Denver, I believe, came to Los Angeles airport with 3 or 4 pilots inside, and they weren't touching any of the instruments. They were setting up everything on the GPS, Global Positioning System, autopilot. And that airplane landed safely and successfully at Los Angeles airport, LAX. Pilots weren't touching any of the cockpit instruments. Everything was done autopilot. And they were being directed by the Global Positioning System, and the plane just missed the mark by only about 50 to 75 feet. And this is a Global Positioning System. Now, satellite imagery. Now, did you know that on a clear day, and this was in 1982, by the way, a shot image from a satellite, for example, in this one, first magnification from the sky, shows what looks like a lake right here, Lake Michigan, okay? second magnification easily shows the 10,000 square miles of Lake Michigan and what looks like a city, and that's Chicago. And then third magnification clearly sees the city of Chicago and Lake Michigan. Each magnification picture is 10 times the one preceding, and the next one is this is the heart of Chicago, shown in the fourth magnification. This view is the same as that seen by jet airplane passengers from 18,000 feet. Now that's not surprising. Now the fifth magnification of the satellite photo appears as though it was taken only from 1,800 feet, and boats in the marinas and cars and the stadium are easy to define, and so on. Now this is not so amazing. Now the next magnification, you can clearly make out the man sunning himself in the park just off of the yacht club, and you can see the marina and the yacht. Now this may not be so stunning, but the next magnification 7 times gives us the equivalent of a picture taken at 20 feet. And you can start seeing this man sunning himself right there. Now, the man sunning himself can be unmistakably identified in this 8th magnification, if you choose to. Even the books he reads are now public knowledge. And you can see the belt and the jeans in his hand. Now, this is not so amazing compared to this startling photo. It becomes apparent that scars, identifying marks, could easily be confirmed if the powers that be really wanted them. And you know darn well that they want this type of a surveillance. Scars. Now, the final mind-boggling picture, magnified 10 times from the original satellite view, appears as if it were taken from only 1 centimeter away. Again, you can see the amazing nature of satellite computerized photo enhancement technology. And this was in 1982. And granted that it had to be on a perfect clear day, you see. But this was in 1982. So imagine right now what they have. Did you know that recently a satellite was launched just a few days ago, a Titan IV rocket, in a series of launching of all these satellites. And the main purpose of this satellite is to be able to detect private telephone conversations from the air. And this is a fact. This has been going on since last year. Now, farmers in Europe now can't hide anything, I mean anywhere as a matter of fact. European satellite imagery to track agricultural fraud. Okay, they know what type of crops they're making, the farmers, how much he's making, and so on. This is all controlled right now. We're living in a highly controlled society, folks, just as prophesied in the Bible. USA Today News, April of last year, amazing article. Sky Spy, a Titan IV rocket today is expected to deploy a long-delayed new generation spy satellite, code name Aquacade. Again, the Navy, water. Again, this is a symbolism. Aquacade, that can eavesdrop on private phone and radio conversations. Its antenna is bigger than a football field. And let me just digress for a moment. I mentioned this project Aquacade, again a symbology, the Navy, U.S. Navy Research Laboratory, and so on. Some of the military documents contain the very code word, an occultic code word called magic. M-A-J-I-C, or M-A-G-I-C, or M-A-J-I, magi, or even majority, or majestic. These are symbolic code words. It's an occultic term from ancient days, meaning wise men. The word magi means wise men, as in the days of Christ's birth, wise men came to, towards Bethlehem. You see, the secret government has been cleverly using symbology. A friend of mine, American Airlines pilot, was flying over the helicopter facility in Marana, Arizona, which I explained to you just 2 years ago. And he was renting a private plane and flying over that black helicopter facility, and he was listening to the communication system. And the code word that he had heard was magic. Again, the multi-jurisdictional force, MJ force. I don't think it's a coincidence. The MJ documents, I don't think it's a coincidence. It could have been a false disinformation ploy by the government. But nevertheless, they have used the symbology, majestic. Did you know that the Bilderbergers allegedly met in Paris in the 60s, I believe, in a hotel, and the hotel's name was Majestic. Again, Magi, MJ, majority, MJ, multi-jurisdiction. These are, I don't think, coincidence. It's some type of a setup. Now, they can affect any autos from the air and disengage electromagnetic system, engine mechanism. That's not a big feat right now. It's capable, it's possible in case of national emergency. Defense Intelligence Agency plans global data network. Again, their purpose is to unify and link the world's data system, data bank, and establish, for example, at Area 51, Dreamland, the data repository establishment and management land, unifying the world's computer systems. For example, by launching this BEAST, or Battle Engagement Area Simulator Tracker, which I explained before, by the U.S. Navy Research Laboratory. Possibly linking maybe European data control system from Belgium, and linking all North America, Asia in a tripartite or trilateral global system that's coming. USA Today says National Citizen ID proposed. It's coming. National identification is coming. CNN service headquarters had this article, National Health Plan is tracked. The use of multi-automated reader card, MARC, or mark, as the Defense Department's smart card, and that can track everything. It follows closely with the national efforts to define universal health benefits and access, and so on. It's coming. A controlled society is here. The National Police Agency in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand, is considering introduction of IC smart card driver's licenses that could be used as identity cards or even to start a car. Bangkok, Thailand. And as you know, in the Far East, in Singapore, Singapore already is a half-controlled society, just like a New World Order. It's the first steps, and this is what's going to probably take place in this country, if not the entire world. That's what the Bible says. A one-world system will be appearing in the very possibly next few short years. And let me say to you that this is not just a figment of imagination, because this is indicated in the Bible that we are living in turbulent and perilous times right now. And I believe that the series of emergencies, I believe, will be coming. Crisis creation. And this is definitely an old trick of the secret occultic government to create a crisis to unify by force certain groups of people. Crisis creation. For example, I believe with all my heart that there is a secret government and a secret agencies. As you know, there are so many agencies in this country. And I'm proud to be a naturalized citizen of this great country, and I love this country tremendously. But loving this country and fearing the government or the central government, that's not an equivalent thing, you see. You can love this country, but we can fear the encroachment of a large centralized government. And this is what's happening right now. I believe that right now, several agent provocateurs, if you may, of several agencies are infiltrating religious cults worldwide. For example, in Japan recently there has been this a cult it's strangely enough, it's a Buddhistic cult. And they were even talking about Armageddon. You know, the agents sent in to infiltrate these cults are provoking some type of dissension and problems, and encouraging these religious cults to do some extremist things, and thus create the distorted image of anybody that talks about Armageddon. Did you know that this Japanese cult is a Buddhistic cult, but yet they talk about Armageddon, and they think that they have to arm themselves? But again, is this just coincidence, or maybe a planned thing by the secret government to infiltrate religious cults and cause dissension and bring them to do some extremist type of actions to cause discredit to any religious movement even? In fact, in the United States right now, if you are a fundamentalist Christian, you are placed into this category of right-wing extremist wacko. And this is a fact. Again, is this a coincidence? I don't think so. This is a carefully planned plan of what I believe to be a multi-effort worldwide to bring about a new world order. And I don't think it's very mature to think that one group, one particular group, is behind all this. I think it's a conglomerate effort of many of the world's secret groups, highly occultic in nature, to form simultaneously some type of a direction, and eventually out of this conglomerate effort will arise a person that will probably deceive the entire world, namely the Antichrist. This is, I believe that this is the moment of time. We're not talking about 30 to 40 years away. We're talking about possibly within the next few years, possibly maybe within the next 24 months, or possibly within this year, maybe in the fall of this year, or maybe the fall of next year. The reason I say this is because I believe if the biblical realization of the translation of the believers in the air would take place, as promised in the Bible, I would imagine that year, or maybe the fall of next year. The reason I say this is because I believe if the biblical realization of the translation of the believers in the air would take place, as promised in the Bible, I would imagine that the most ideal time for God is to do His thing symbolically on like a Feast of the Trumpets, or maybe Rosh Hashanah, or Holy Season. And again, maybe the fall, maybe we can expect something, but we cannot set up dates, but yet we believe that it could happen this fall, or maybe next fall, but definitely within our generation.
Hello everyone, it's Dan from Press for Truth, and I thought I'd make a little video today just to show you my collection of Illuminati archives, rare documents, rare books, and just information on the New World Order in general. So I've laid out a few things here that I'll show you. And I'll start with this one. This is a Niles Weekly Register from November 28th, 1829. So we have the year 1829, very old document here. And let me just very carefully open it up and I'll show you an article in here. I'll just read it. Jerusalem. There is a report that the Rothschilds have purchased Jerusalem. We see nothing improbable that in the pecuniary distress of the Sultan he should sell some part of his dominions to preserve the rest, or that the Rothschilds should purchase the ancient capital of their homeland. They are wealthy beyond desire. It is quite reasonable to suppose that they may seek something else to gratify their ambition, that shall produce most important effects. If secured in the possession, and which may be brought about by money, they might instantly, as it were, gather a large nation together, soon to become capable of defending itself and having a wonderful influence over the commerce and condition of the East, rendering Judea, again, the place of deposit of a large portion of the wealth of the ancient world. Now it goes on to say in the bottom here, the Sultan is in great difficulty. Baron Rothschild was proceeding to Constantinople, and a second rebuilding of the temple is not among the most strange things expected in these strange times. So again, this is something else. This is an article stating that the Rothschilds have purchased Jerusalem, and that they are planning the rebuilding of the temple. Now again, this is from 1829, a time when the press wasn't nearly as controlled as it is today, so they were able to get away with putting stuff like that out there. Another example of that, we have Harper's Weekly from September 22nd, 1894. If I can show you what I have here, this is something else here too. We have an article on the Bohemian Grove, the Bohemian Club of San Francisco. Very long article. And it goes on to say stuff like this. Over in a little hollow a few hundred yards from the grove was built a funeral pyre, on which turpentine had been sprinkled. The coffin was laid on this pyre. The high priest took his stand on the platform beside it. Around him, in a semicircle, the choristers and demons with their torches were grouped. The high priest went through a ceremonial in which the choir behind him intoned or sang the words he spoke. He called on the Bohemians to present their carton cares and heartaches to be put on the pyre and burned up. Then came some jokes pertinent to club members and matters. Then he invoked the Saint John, adopted by the club for his appropriateness in several ways, and suddenly an enormous figure of Saint John in his robes burst into flame. The pyre was lighted. Care and the Blue Devils went up in the most beautiful and effective form of fireworks.
When Israel was created in 1948, and I think it was definitely a miraculous thing, provided, of course, granted that there are many evil-minded elite, even in the state of Israel. In fact, the state of Israel's development in 1948 could have been also engineered by extreme Zionist elements which had nothing to do with the Bible. But despite that fact, God can use any incident and any human errors to fulfill His promise. And this is the reason why I believe that the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, despite the human error and despite the humanistic effort on some of those that are maybe working on the secret government, the cabal, maybe the Zionistic cabal, despite these evil intentions maybe on the part of some human elements, God can still use some of this to fulfill His promise. God's ways are mysterious ways. We don't understand, but we believe that it's a biblical fulfillment of prophecy, and we are the generation. The countdown began in 1948, and as I've been showing you, just 1 year before the State of Israel's birth, a lot of strange things began to happen in this country and elsewhere in the world. I believe that maybe the devil or Satan knew that his countdown began, and maybe this is the reason why they could have begun the materialization for deception just around the time of the State of Israel. 1 year before, 1947, when all of these strange things began to take place. The beginning of a long series of a manipulation or a deceptive manipulation by the secret government, preparing us and sensitizing us for something that is about to happen. So we could be two-sided. We could be in the middle of a two-sided battle to control our destiny. But I believe that God's ways will be victorious. And according to the Bible, we have all the powers. We don't have to be afraid of what's coming up, because the Bible says that we have Christ we have the shield weapons, spiritual weapons that surround us. We cannot be afraid of what's going on. We cannot be paranoid about all of these things. But again, this is the moment. This is it. We're living in the time, and we're living the most exciting time of history at this very moment. Thank you very much, and I'll be concluding this presentation at this time. Let me talk about some of the strange agencies that we have in this country. And some of these agencies are not completely government agencies, but semi-government agency, if you will. One example is the secretive Wackenhut Corporation. A little while ago, a few years ago, the Las Vegas Review-Journal had an article about a helicopter crashing right next to Area 51, in fact, Area 18. And a strange article came out saying that 3 of the people crashed in the crash belonged to a Wackenhut security system. Special security, Wackenhut Special Security, that of course is part of the security forces that cover Area 51 and its perimeters. And also 2 people from EG&G Corporation. EG&G Corporation, of course, is the defense contractor whereby Mr. Robert Lazar claimed to have worked for a period of 6 months between 1988 and 1989, and upon whose testimony I took a television team of Japan to Area 51 and witnessed what we believe to be a test flight of a strange aerial craft. Now, this helicopter crashed in Area 18, and however, the article said that this helicopter crashed due to the presence of power lines over there. And strangely enough, there is no power lines anywhere right at Area 51 or nearby area. And again, this was a cover-up. Strangely enough, a computer magazine in California, which had nothing to do with the relative topic, came out with this report stating that Wackenhut is also responsible for the security on a lot of underground facilities in California and Nevada, including the notorious S4 or Area 51 in Nevada, where Townsend Brown flying this technology has been flying and developing for decades. A recent helicopter crash at the site where 2 pilots and 3 security guards from Wackenhut flying a Messerschmitt BO-105 helicopter were killed was not at all accidental, claimed Riconosciuto, Michael Riconosciuto, who was part of the Insula scandal, who said that the individuals aboard the helicopter were traveling with sensitive documents, perhaps trying to take some documents out of the Area 51 facility. Were they defectors? Possibly. And again, this is the revelation of the presence of a Wackenhut security system, a fast-growing semi-private security force employed in many of the key sensitive installations around the country. When Mr. Reagan came into this administration, he replaced a lot of U.S. Marines with the semi-private security force known as Wackenhut Corporation or Wackenhut Worldwide Technologies. Now, it's also called the Shadow CIA. Wackenhut actually in 1966 could confidently state that it had secret files on 4 million Americans. 1966. And yet this is a semi-private organization growing in scope. And many of the members of this organization belonged to FBI Division 5 and CIA and ex-DIA officials. Some perhaps are still involved in agencies, governmental agencies. So they are doing the work of CIA. It's a shadow CIA. Now, speaking about technology that I had been talking about this evening, McDonnell Douglas came out with a report just about 10 years ago stating that they had a new series of helmets for pilots and specific suits for pilots that can make a pilot withstand at least 10 G's or gravitation force. Did you know that astronauts have to endure at least 3 or 4 G's for the takeoff, and without the precautions, the methods that to prevent disasters, they have to wear a certain type of suits. Without wearing the suit, any human being with 3 G's will be crushed to death with the pressure, extreme pressure. But yet McDonnell Douglas 10 years ago already reported that they have this suit that can accommodate at least 10 G's. So right now, 20 G's, easy. Even if the aircraft makes a tremendous move, right angular turn, it's possible that they can withstand that type of pressure. Now, Washington Post just reported a couple of months ago that brain waves can now fly a plane. In fact, I heard from my air pilot of the American Airlines, who has some friends in the military, especially pilots. They're saying that now everything depends on the helmet. It's not what's in front of the cockpit, the window. They don't have to look in front of the airplane to fly some of these things. It's connected to a specialized helmet. There are screens inside the helmet and all kinds of attachments, and also they can actually direct a plane's course by the movement of your eyeballs, or the movement of your eyeballs to the side, to the left, or up or down. It's possible right now. It's an old technology, maybe 10, 15 years ago they began developing. And so with this turning of this head to the one side, they can now direct the course of that plane. In fact, there have been so many buttons in the cockpit, and that was one of the reasons for getting this technology. And now they even have a basic brainwave command system that can link with the computer in front of you and send a simple thought process translated into computer. Like imagining fast or slow or left or right. A simple command can now be translated into computerized language. And strange thing is, of course, it says in this article, similar techniques may one day allow an airplane pilot to operate certain controls merely by thinking, which is a lie right here. It's already perfected. Okay, and an Air Force program at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton has demonstrated that brain-actuated control has moved a significant step beyond science fiction. When the Washington Post says so, it's already done. It's already done. And the interesting thing is this. This is, of course, it's a statement. Our subjects can't exactly describe what it is they learn to do, said Dr. Grant McMillan, director of the Bio-Cybernetics Project at Wright-Patterson Aeronautical System. Again, Wright-Patterson. Hangar 18. Hangar 18 was allegedly the hangar where a lot of these alleged crashed remains of the objects that was crashed in Roswell were allegedly transported. Hangar 18. Again, a symbolism. As I mentioned before, there is a new Hangar 18 at Area 51. Coming from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, again, maybe there is a connection. Did you know that what's really high technology right now is really composite materials? Composite materials is what this is all about, the aeronautical industry concentrating on composite materials. We have now amazing metallic material that looks heavy, but yet you can bounce it off. You can throw this metallic material because it's so light you can't even bend it with a hammer. Those are the type of composite materials that are going to change the future. And they have been working on composite materials for the last 20, 30 years in places like Area 51. Now, I believe that we have a technology whereby we could have sent artificial material on the surface of the moon even as early as the late 1960s, possibly around 70s, or maybe even before. You see, this NASA's photo released during the late 70s indicate an artificial object and its path on the lunar surface, and also another one right here, and a chain type of path, chain link type of a path. This is not a natural object. It's a path of an artificial object on the lunar surface. As I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we had a atmospheric vehicle that can get out of the atmosphere, and in fact, that's what they have at Area 51. Multi-mux. 11 times the speed of sound, 13 times the speed of sound, 17 times the speed of sound, whereby you can get out of the atmosphere without using the conventional technology, old technology like they've been doing 30 years in Florida, Cape Canaveral or Cape Kennedy, when they launched space shuttles. They've been using the same old ancient hydrogen liquid technology for the last 30 years with no sign of development. Isn't that strange? Hydrogen liquid for the last 30 years with no signs of development. Folks, this is just a show, because our entire economy is based on oil. Meanwhile, in places like Nevada, secret facility, they have developed things that can go out of the atmosphere without relying on rocketry. And maybe that was one of the reasons why we found anomalous objects on the moon, and possibly on other nearby places. Maybe Mars? Who knows? Now, as I've been talking tonight about government by emergency, creation crisis, this is what's going to be happening. Now, the incidents of black helicopters are not just found in extremist publications, the so-called right-wing publications. Presence of black helicopters and others have been appearing on mainstream newspapers. In Los Angeles Times, droning helicopters kept hundreds of Oxnard residents awake Tuesday night as a detachment of Marines from Camp Pendleton practiced urban navigation training over a quiet residential neighborhood. Simulating a terrorist situation, 6 Marine Corps helicopters hovered and swooped in the vicinity of Ventura Freeway and Rose Avenue, 10:30 p.m., frightening and angering nearby residents. It was loud. They weren't very far from my house. You could hear this glove, glove, glove. It was irritating, to say the least. They were right above our heads. I was thinking that somebody broke out of jail or something. The nighttime maneuvers were part of the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit's 180-day training mission. Now, why were they doing something like this in a quiet residential neighborhood around 10:30 in the evening, perhaps midnight? And many reports say some of them do it midnight. Maybe they were doing some type of a house-to-house joint exercise, maneuvering with maybe other agencies, working together with other agencies. It's coming from mainstream newspapers right now. Los Angeles Times even reported this presence of a Russian plane that landed with secret cargo in Alabama. I think this was just last year. Secret Russian cargo, bulky enough to fill one of the world's largest airplanes, has been delivered to Redstone Arsenal, an Army base in Huntsville, Alabama. Army officials admitted that truckloads of material were delivered by Russian AN-124 aircraft, but nobody would say what the cargo was. This is classified, said David Harris, a civilian public information officer at the base. I can tell you that it was not nuclear material and that there was nothing on that plane that poses a hazard, which is probably a lie. No question about it. I mean, mainstream newspapers beginning to report. Now, this is the facts that we received. A strange patch that says Federal Emergency Management Agency, United States Police, Federal Protective Service, Police. Are these signs of what's coming right now? an alleged note from the Department of the Army for the civilian inmate utilization on installations. Procedures for preparing requests to establish civilian inmate labor programs on installations. Now, it's a strange note. Again, there are programs right now, as you know, I'm sure you heard about this program to re-educate juvenile delinquents or gangs, youth gangs. There are some kind of a program going on right now to retrain. Now, some of it could be legitimate, but again, what this is, we don't know. Maybe this could be for some other purpose. Did you know that thousands of Japanese American citizens during World War II were interned in many of the camps in California, Nevada, Arizona during World War II? American citizens, loyal American citizens. Some of them even fought for this country in Europe and even received medals. The 442nd Battalion, Japanese American soldiers, getting a lot of medals in Europe for America, but yet their parents were incarcerated. Citizens, American citizens, in labor camps in the United States. Some of those facilities are still being maintained. For what purpose, we don't know. Clinton has began closing a lot of military bases, but a lot of these bases are still being maintained for reasons unknown. The Canadian author says that NASA has the capability to project a huge screen in the air using the atmosphere like a movie screen of sort and project some type of a hologramic imagery in the sky. And it's my belief that this could well be the scenario that the government could create to explain away maybe the rapture by creating an alternate scenario, which is a fake incident. Now, in Nebraska last year, a lot of people saw blue flashes of light in the atmosphere, and the Los Alamos scientists said that this could be some type of experiment using the stratosphere and the electrons to create some kind of a signal. Los Alamos National Laboratory. In this blue jets, or another name is the high-flying sprites, they have named this thing. It's like a blue type of a beam. And maybe this is related to what this Canadian researcher is saying, the Blue Beam Project. Data holograms, this is very important for the military and for science. Everything is going into hologramic technology. Hologramic can be tridimensionally produced. Hologramic image of Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa can actually be emitted in the atmosphere, in the clouds. That's how the technology is right now. Our technology is even astounding. They could possibly even have a localized vibration underground, maybe a localized quake of some kind. For example, U.S. Geological Survey scientists are now planning to detonate a series of ammonium nitrate potassium, allegedly to relieve the tension of some of the fault lines in California. Allegedly. Or are they planning on something? Localized vibrations or quake is possible by our technology. Scalar technology is not just a figment of imagination. These are some of the realistic items that we are discussing. Bertrand Russell made a strange statement. At present, the population of the world is increasing at about 58,000 per day. War so far has had no very great effect on this increase, which continued throughout each of the world wars. War has hitherto been disappointing in this respect, he says. But perhaps bacteriological war may prove effective. If a Black Death could spread throughout the world once in every generation, survivors could procreate freely without making the world too full. A strange statement. Again, I believe that Satan is definitely influencing a lot of the minds of human. Even some top selected sciences could be deceived in producing more dangerous weapons. Maybe this is some kind of a trick by Satan to infuse this type of inspiration to create deadly weapons. Now, this October, a conference will be held in San Francisco at the Presidio. Of course, the Presidio, not at the Presidio, but the Presidio is where ex-President Gorbachev of Soviet Union has been borrowing space. In fact, Clinton has given Gorbachev an office at the Presidio. The Presidio is one of the most prestigious military fort in the United States, and now he gives it up and closes it so that Gorbachev can establish his World Foundation, the Gorbachev Foundation, headquartered in San Francisco. And coincidentally, this October, world leaders will gather around the world, including Ted Turner of CNN, and prime ministers of many countries will attend this conference on global civilization about establishing and considering the new world order, how it can be governed this October, this fall. Again, maybe we're talking about something that could possibly take precedence this year, maybe next year. We're not sure, but these are definitely signs of the times. Signs of the times are right here. And this is the reason why I believe in the Bible. The Bible authenticates everything that's happening right now. In fact, recently, a supportive article came about the Shroud of Turin. Just about 5 to 10 years ago, a lot of scientists dismissed the authenticity of the Shroud of Turin, the shroud where Christ was said to have, Christ's image was said to have imprinted upon his resurrection. Now, again, a lot of scientists said this was just a hogwash just a few years ago. But now, a lot of the DNA experts are now beginning to assess the situation, and now they're saying maybe this could have been at the time of Christ. So again, the Bible proves that the Word of God is true. You see, we are just waiting for what I believe to be the final stages before the coming of the Lord. But first of all, I am fortunate to be a Christian. That is the most important thing in the world, is to receive Christ. And as long as you have Christ, that is the starting point. If you don't have Christ, you cannot even go to the starting point. That's what the Bible says. To receive Christ is, of course, just the beginning. You can receive Christ and end with that, but the Bible says that we have to continuously grow and continuously occupy ourselves until the coming of the Lord. And again, I thank each one of you who came tonight to hear this presentation, and may God bless you and protect each one of you and your loved ones, particularly during these turbulent and perilous times we're living in, because the Lord's coming is right at the door.